So, I am not gonna lie to you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not gonna lie to you. We have some less than great news to get to. We have some bad news to get to. On Friday afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, actually at 4 p.m. on Friday afternoon, Friday evening really, a Friday news dump occurred. You guys know what that is, right? A Friday news dump, it's when a government agency releases a press release on a story that they're not proud of, that they're hoping that the media just flat out ignores it. They hope that people don't notice the story. Well, ladies and gentlemen, on 4 p.m. Friday, the United States State Department issued their long-awaited environmental impact report on the Trans-Canada Keystone XL Pipeline. And in the State Department's environmental report, the U.S. State Department declared that the Keystone XL Pipeline is environmentally sound. That's right. You heard me. The pipeline, the Keystone XL Pipeline that we've talked about so many times on the show, so many times that I end up feeling like a broken record, but this is really important, folks. The pipeline that NASA scientists have said is game over for our environment. The State Department says that it is environmentally sound. Environmentally sound is what they say. That sound may actually be the end of human life on this planet. That might be the sound, a gasp of people dying. Look, let's not sugarcoat this at all, folks. This is bad. This is very, very, very bad news. Although, again, if you listen to the show, I can't personally say that I am surprised by the news. If you listen regularly, you know that I believe that President Barack Obama will ultimately approve this planet-destroying pipeline. This report from the State Department takes us one step closer to Barack Obama's decision. I know some of you were hoping that with John Kerry taking over as Secretary of State, John Kerry, granted, has a fairly decent history when it comes to the environment. He gave a speech recently about how important the environment is. I know some of you thought that with John Kerry taking over Secretary of State, there might be some hope in this regard. I'm sorry to say I don't believe that that's the case. So here's the deal. Here's what's going on next. There is now a 45-day period where citizens can comment on this report. And then after that, John Kerry will either approve of the report and send it on to Barack Obama, or he will not. If he approves it, it then goes to President Obama, who will then make the ultimate final decision on the approval of the pipeline. So let's dig into the report itself. So the essential flawed and messed up argument in the State Department report, because the whole logic in the report is so messed up. The whole essential messed up logic is, if the Keystone XL pipeline isn't built, if it's not built, well then TransCanada will still extract the oil, and it can still ship the tar sands oil via truck or train. That's the argument. So they're saying that without this pipeline, TransCanada and the country of Canada will still pull the oil out and transport it via train or truck. What they don't say, ladies and gentlemen, in this report is that is actually much, much slower, much, much more expensive, and it's actually not practical to do at all. Essentially, what this report is saying is that we want this carbon in the air, and we want it in the air now. We want this tar sands oil out of the ground, and we want it out of the ground now. And if we don't help TransCanada, this international oil company, well, they'll get to it eventually. It's like saying, well, my house may eventually need some new siding, so I'll just bulldoze the whole house today. Hey, I am going to die someday. So why don't I just put a bullet in my head this morning, huh? It's this specific type of oil, the tar sands oil, is not like crude oil. It costs a lot of money to refine. It is very, very hard to transport. It is corrosive, and so when it goes in these pipelines, it often leaks. Hell, like we talked about before on the show, already parts of the pipeline in Texas that aren't even being used yet already have holes already in the pipeline. There was a spill in Michigan, a tar sand spill in Michigan on a different TransCanada pipeline. If TransCanada can't transport this tar sands oil to the refineries cheaply, i.e. via pipeline, here's the deal, folks. If they can't do that, they don't make money off of it. That's the key here, folks. The point of the Keystone XL Pipeline is to get this dirty, filthy tar sands oil out of the ground as fast as possible, to get it piped down to the Koch brothers owned refineries in Texas, where the refined oil will then be shipped off to China and Russia. You know, I've said this time and time again on this show, folks. This oil is not going to us. This ain't your oil. This ain't America's oil. This ain't your grandma's oil, ladies and gentlemen. This is a foreign oil corporation's oil. And these dirty energy monsters, these monsters want it out of the ground fast. And that's the problem here, folks. If we want to have a habitable planet, we need this tar sands oil to stay in the ground. There is a lowball estimate of that the fact that if this tar sands oil is extracted, that 240 gigatons of carbon will be released in the environment. That is a lowball estimate, because it's probably more of the amount of carbon that is currently in these tar sands in Alberta, Canada. And by not providing them with an easy, cheap way to get it out of the ground, by not allowing them to get it out of the ground cheaply, quickly, and easily, that is the bloody point. That's the point here, people. By the United States refusing to build this pipeline, it also gives a very, very important thing to our Canadian friends, our friends across the border in Canada. What it gives them is time. Time for our progressive brothers and sisters up in Canada. Time for environmental activists up in Canada. Time for First Nation people up in Canada to do what they're doing here and what we're doing here, which is trying to stop the whole damn thing. I talked about NASA earlier, NASA scientist James Hansen. He said last year, quote, "Canada's tar sands contain twice the amount of carbon dioxide emitted by global oil use in our entire history. That level of heat-trapping gases would assure that the disintegration of the ice sheets would accelerate out of control." End quote. That is what we are looking at here. And I'm going to be honest, folks, we have to look at this very, very clearly and soberly. Because of this State Department report that just came out, we are, in fact, one step closer to Barack Obama approving the XL pipeline. Here's what we have to do. We have to make a stink for the next 45 days until Secretary of State John Kerry makes his decision. Then, assuming that Secretary of State John Kerry sides with big oil and sides with the Koch brothers, because he probably will, assuming that he does, then we will have to make a stink until Barack Obama makes his decision. And then assuming that President Barack Obama sides with big oil, sides with dirty energy, sides with the Koch brothers, because all indications are showing that he probably will, then we have to go bigger. Just like the tar sands blockade people are already doing. Things like civil disobedience, physically blocking construction, I mentioned this before. The tar sands blockade are doing a whole week of actions nationwide the week of March the 16th. They are targeting companies, not just TransCanada, but companies that will profit off of the XL pipeline. You can find about those protests at their website, which is tarsandsblockade.org. Look, I know I sound like a broken record on this topic, but here's the deal. This issue is not normal politics, guys. It's not. And I think and I hope that most of you get that. I really do. And I think you do. This is not normal politics. This is the very future of humanity. And all of the pretty speeches that Barack Obama can give and has given on the topic of climate change, they mean absolutely nothing. Those words mean absolutely nothing if he approves this pipeline. It is time that you and anyone who cares about living on this planet, having a habitable planet for their children and their grandchildren, let President Obama know that fact. We'll be right back.